I think there are three major texts that complicate the view that Christians have of the natural world and of various arguments used within Christianity to link the world we see to the existence or nature of God. I mean, one of the most famous ones is the Scottish philosopher David Hume's Dialogues on Natural Religion of 1779. And Hume makes a number of brilliant caustic comments on traditional Anglican views of natural theology and the argument from design. I mean, the first one, which is a major and significant argument he makes, is that there's a logical error within natural theology. The argument from design, so the argument that we can read off God's handiwork from the order and intricacy of the world around us, Hume says, is a mistake, because we're moving from something that's essentially finite and we're inferring from it the existence of something that's incomprehensible and infinite. And Hume says you just can't do that. If you walk on a seashore, and this is an old argument that's used by natural philosophers for many hundreds of years, if you look around you and find pieces of rubbish that show signs of manufacture, like an old bottle or a watch, you can read off from that intelligent behaviour. You can know something about the sorts of people who manufactured these objects and how they manufactured them. Hume says you can't do that when you look at nature. You can't read off the existence of a supernatural deity, nor can you read off any of the key elements of that deity. And Hume's second argument is really an extension of that thought, because he says there's an assumption that the deity who's created the world we live in is a benevolent one. But actually, even if there is a deity whom we can read off from the world we see around us, there's such a lot of evil in the world. And even in the animal kingdom, there's such outrageous behaviour in the animal kingdom that you can't read off a benevolent God from it. I mean, there's sickening, vile activities going on in the natural world. I mean, what kind of benevolent God is that? So Hume's book, I think, is very significant. The second major book that had an influence on the relations between science and religion was written in the middle of the last decade of the 18th century by Charles Darwin's grandfather, Erasmus Darwin. It's called Zoonome. And what Darwin did was to resuscitate and revitalise the ancient tradition which asserted that order and chance in the world had come around through the chance arrangement of material particles. And this materialism, which is this account of materialism, which is performed brilliantly by Erasmus Darwin, sent shockwaves through many people in Britain, partly because Darwin was writing in a time of great political crisis, with Britain and France at war, with the French Revolution and its revolutionary materialist principles doing the rounds, as it were, in various parts of Europe. The British are very worried about the effects of Darwin's work. The third book, which sends shockwaves even to this day, is the Reverend Thomas Malthus's essay on the principle of population. And what Malthus argues is that there is a general tendency amongst human beings to reproduce at an exponential rate, so that two parents will produce on the whole 4 children. Those 4 children will each themselves have 4 children, and you can see that the population rises fairly dramatically in a very short number of generations. But the amount of food and resources that are available to feed those children only grows at a very slow rate, arithmetically, if you like. And what Malthus sees is that there is bound to be a disparity or a disconnect between the need to feed large numbers of people and the amount of food that's available. And what Malthus suggests in a later edition, from a political point of view, is that no state can afford to allow the lower orders to keep reproducing at the gigantic rates that they do. What he suggests is that there's some sort of divinely guaranteed natural order of things by which, when the lower orders breed to the extent that they do, there are going to be deaths. The state should not try and look after these people. This is a very hideous, for many people unpalatable view of the world. But Malthusianism is something, it's a theory of population growth which was extremely influential for Charles Darwin and has many repercussions for the way we think about the population explosion today. In short, Malthus presents a very nasty view of the world. It's a very depressing view of God's creation.